Hello, welcome back to the garden. Today is Friday the 26th of May. It's about midday. The weather is absolutely beautiful and I don't want to say it, but it's probably a little bit too hot to be working out here. But the one thing that I'm really lucky with this garden is that if it's too hot, there's plenty of areas that I can work in the shade. But in today's video, I'm out here doing a little bit of pottering around. I've got a couple of jobs that I really need to get on with. They don't take very long each, but they definitely need to be done as soon as possible. So it's perfect to be able to kind of come out and do when it's hot, because I can do one job and then go back in or work somewhere in the shade and then come back and do the other ones. But anyway, one thing that I really need to get done as soon as possible, and that is the mulch on this pathway. I think the last time I was up here with you was when I planted my potatoes, and the potatoes are growing really nicely now in this clay soil, but when I was up here last, this kind of clay soil was so wet and craggy, but now it's turned to concrete. Where my fruit bushes are along the side here, it's just so dry, and I really want to get a mulch down on top of this area so that when I do water, it can retain the water, but it will also mean that I don't have to water this area. And yeah, I don't have to worry about this yucky, ugly concrete area that's, once we have some rain, is going to go all claggy again. I've also got my tomatoes out now, my bush tomatoes out in their pots, but one of the bush varieties apparently grows to 6 foot. So I also need to get those staked today. I've got a couple of tomatoes in the polytunnel that need some twine before they go in. So I've got some twine that I can use. And then after that, I'm going to start putting the wire in for my peach tree in the polytunnel as well. I have to apologise about the lighting in this video. As I said, it's about midday and it's probably completely the wrong time to film, but I needed just to bring you along because over the last couple of weeks, I've hardly been filming at all. And the reason being is I've just been coming out here and enjoying the garden, but I've really missed bringing you along and showing you what I've been up to. So unfortunately, you're just going to have to put up with the very bad shadows and the brightness of it. But today for the mulching, I am going to be using some homemade wood chip. This is homemade wood chip from plants that have actually been taken down from this area. So that will be going down, but I'm also going to be using some wood shavings. Now, probably most of you don't know, but maybe about 4 years ago, when I first started out on YouTube, I actually had chickens. And then when the chickens finally weren't around anymore, I still had some of this kind of wood chips or wood shavings left over. And I'd always planned that I would be having a compost toilet up here. So I kind of just left it and didn't use it. But it's just clogging up room in my shed now. I can use it on the ground this year as a mulch. It will help retain water. And then in the future, if I do get a composting bin, I can buy a new pack then. So I think what I'm going to do is use the homemade wood chip for the pathway and then the wood shavings around all of the fruit bushes. I've got another couple of things that I'm going to be putting between the fruit bushes, but at the moment, as I said, the ground is like concrete. So I think if I put the mulch down, as and when we have a bit of rain or it is watered by myself, it should hopefully help moisturise the ground in between, so I can actually get a spade in or a fork and get it planted up. I'm really pleased with this area though, because it gets maybe about 6 hours of direct sunlight a day, and then it's got a bit of shade, which means nothing is getting completely baked in this really hot sun. And it seemed to be growing really well. So honestly, I can't wait to have a full season out here and see how it does. With the potatoes as well, they are really, they seem to be doing well, but again, it's that clayey soil, so I don't think I'm going to water any of these this year. But what I'm going to do is actually mulch this with grass clippings. So the raised beds that I'm filling up at the moment, they've had a layer each of grass clippings now. So I think as I mow next, all of this will have lovely grass clippings put on top, and then that will help build it over the next growing season, help kind of keep the moisture in this clay, and it will just, you know, do much better hopefully. I'm so pleased with this because I have managed to make a pathway here, and I've still got one tub of this left over. So I think rather than using the last remaining tub to put another layer on top of this pathway, I'm going to reserve it for this area. I've now got my tomatoes, these are the mini bells, in their final grow-in pots, and I was going to be putting those down down on the patio, but I think this little area gets so much sun that they're going to do really well here. So I do have some grow bags that I need to plant up with some courgettes and squash that will be going here, so I can save this last lot of wood chip for putting around this area. But we'll be back here in a minute to get these sorted out with some stakes, but for now let's work on getting this wood chip out, or this wood shavings out. Do you know what? I don't know why I haven't thought about using these wood shavings before. They've been in the shed for, like I said, a good few years, definitely 4 years. And even though, you know, they're not going to last as long as putting wood chip down, but that would cost me money to go and buy it. And I already had this here, and, you know, yeah, it's much kind of thinner than wood chip, but I've still managed to get a really good layer here, and I'm definitely going to have enough to cover this whole area. I am so pleased with this. How I've not ever thought about using wood shavings before. Probably there's loads of you that have been doing this for years, but it looks absolutely brilliant. And when I was buying this back a few years ago, they were about £10 for one of these, whereas if I'd wanted to put wood chip down on here, I'd probably have to spend a lot more on it. So how cool is that? I've still got an area just down here that needs to be tidied up, ready for some fruit bushes to go in there, but honestly it looks absolutely amazing. I wish I had enough now to cover all these potatoes. It would look brilliant. I've got a bit left over just like that wood chip, so I think I'm gonna just leave it over on that other side, but I'm gonna have to go inside for 5 minutes and cool down because it is so hot. But when I'm back, I will meet you at my tomato plants. We've had to have a little bit of a location change. So I was going to be putting the supports on my tomatoes where they were in situ, but it is still so hot and bright that I don't want to be out there for as long as I can, and you definitely won't be able to see me as well as if we're here in the shady part of the garden. So this bit here is just in between my garden down there and the polytunnel. So there's quite a lot of trees over here, and it makes it lovely and shady. I've got a really lovely, beautiful hydrangea behind me, which has lots of little flowers forming on it, so I can't wait to see what it looks like in about a month when it flowers. It's just absolutely pretty, and it's gone really bushy over the years, so definitely going to be propagating some more of those for this area if I can. But anyway, the tomatoes, so the last time you saw these, they were just in their trays needing to be potted up, and it was something that I got on with I think last week. I wasn't able to film it because I was just kind of rushing in between lots of other things. I've been working loads during the week, so I've had to kind of do gardening as and when. But these ones here on your right are the mini bell, and the ones on your left are the Principe Borghese, and really interestingly they're both bush tomatoes, and when I put them in the pots I was just thinking they could grow in these 10-litre pots and didn't need to worry about them too much. But when I was reading up about these ones, even though they're a bushy one, apparently they can grow up to 6 metres. So, or 6 foot, no, they can grow up to 6 foot, not 6 metres. That's like a tree, isn't it? But yeah, so they obviously already are starting to look a little bit leggy. So what I've done is bought some cheap canes. I think I paid £1 for 10 of these. And then I have some new twine. Now, if you watched my last video where I talked to you, or I put my cucumbers and tomatoes in the polytunnel, I was telling you that I was using this like pink twine that was left over from my husband's diving days, and I was just using it up, and it was really brilliant, UV stabilized, blah blah blah. Well, I tried to look for it online, couldn't find any, and then I thought I'm just gonna go for this, which is jute. So it's completely organic, so I'm really hoping that it's going to be fine for tying the tomatoes to these canes, but whether or not it's going to survive keeping tomatoes up all summer, I don't know. But after I'd bought this, my husband then went and said, he was laughing watching my video, saying that it wasn't even a special diving thing. He'd gone to B&Q and bought, it was like a plumb line or something, you know, like for building walls. And I realised that you could buy it for about £4 for a big, you know, same size as this. So I really felt stupid, but it's really annoying because I've now got this jute, which is amazing because it's plastic free and you know, it can be composted and whatever, but I'm not sure if it's going to be strong enough to hold up my tomatoes all year before it actually kind of rots, but who knows. If you used it before, please let me know. But anyway, yeah, I'm really happy with these mini belt. They're so small and stocky, but what's great is they've got loads of flowers on already. So I had, when I potted them on up here, I was just putting them in the polytunnel at night and bringing them back out in the day. But a couple of days ago, for whatever reason, I just didn't put them away, and I thought, oh, I'll just leave them out overnight and see how they get on. And they did really well. So I think they're going to be outside for the rest of the summer now, unless we have any frost or anything forecast. There you go, that is another job ticked off the list. One thing I really need to make sure I do though is get some cane toppers, because honestly, canes are so lethal, especially ones with this size, you know, bending over in the garden, and you can easily take an eye out if you're not careful. So I think as it's the weekend and it's bank holiday weekend too, I think I'm gonna have to treat myself to a pack of stubbies, and then once they're empty, I can just put one on the top of each of these. There's 10, so I might have a very, very good weekend. But also, one thing I need to make sure I do is, now the weather is getting hotter and I'm starting to run out of saved water, I need to make sure that when they do go back into their final growing positions, that I put, I've got some lovely grow bag kind of trays. I'm going to put some on top of those, so as I water them, the water can just go into that tray and it's not wasted. So although the mini bells will be grown up here, this isn't their exact final growing position. It will be kind of around here somewhere. I've still got a little bit of work that needs to be done up here. I've got my grow bags that I need to put out, and as I mentioned earlier, I've got some wood chip and some wood shavings left over, so that can all go down on this ground, because there's craters all over this clay now, so it really needs a mulch putting on top so it can retain the moisture, so I don't have to worry about watering all summer long. But I've also got a couple of fruit bushes behind me, some fruit trees that I need to sort out as well, because it's just too hot for them to sit up here in pots. If you're wondering as well why I've abandoned the other 4 tomato plants over there on the grass, that isn't going to be their final growing position, but I'm not sure where I'm going to put them yet. But the reason they are separated is just because I'm going to be saving the seeds from both of these tomatoes this year. And although a tomato is self-pollinating, so usually it's pollinated in the process of like the flower opening, so you don't have to worry too much about cross-pollination. However, if you do segregate them, you can just make sure that you really kind of eliminate any accidental cross-pollination, and the seeds will become true when you then grow them on, because neither of these are F1 varieties. So that's just the reason, and they seem to be doing okay there. on the grass, and I've moved them as I've mown and things. So yeah, that's done. Now I need to go in the polytunnel and put the 2 final tomato plants in their final growing positions inside the halos. One thing though, my camera absolutely hates being inside there because it's so hot. So what I think I'll do is I will set you up in there, but if you cut out, you just know that my camera's caught on fire basically. So I think the easiest thing is just to leave you at the door while I get on with this. These poor tomato plants though, they have literally been sat in these tiny little pots being baked every single day since my other tomatoes went in. So it's definitely a job that I really needed to have done probably a week ago. I think that's when my tomatoes went in. So hopefully this jute is going to hold up, but I think what I'm also going to do as well as this jute is maybe have a couple of canes handy just in case it does collapse, because I've got a feeling that this is going to disintegrate over the growing season, especially because I always put the string underneath the root ball, so it's going to be wet all summer. Honestly, these poor little plants, I have been watering them when I've been watering the other ones, but because they're in a pot, it's just they're drying out so quickly. I've also not even planted any of the tomatoes down in the greenhouse either. So they are just down in front of you there in their tiny pots too. They've actually been sat in water though. So, you know, they're not as neglected as these poor ones, but definitely need to go in the ground. I've still got 4 cucumbers that I need to put in and 1 melon. The other melon, the watermelon that I grew from seed, unfortunately did get munched in its pot about a week ago now. So I'm not going to have any watermelons to grow. I have looked in the shops when I've popped it in to see, you know, I have seen if there are any watermelons, but none of the shops I've had a look in have had any. And I did have a look online and they were £15 for 3 plants. And the place that they were from just had so many bad reviews on there for things arriving, you know, really damaged or half dead. So I thought, to be honest, I'm just going to leave it this year, and then next year, hopefully, if I do have another polytunnel, I will have loads of room and I can just make an effort to get some melons done, or melons grown at least. Right, they are planted now, but they need a really good water. I probably should have waited to the end of the day to get those in, but I have given them a really good water now. And sometimes you've just got to do a job when you've got the time. Today I've come out and done little bitty jobs that I've been meaning to do for absolutely ages, but sometimes all those little jobs that only take 5 minutes to do just seem to never get done because you don't get around to it. So I'm really pleased that I've managed to get those in, and hopefully this evening when I come out and water everything, I can give them another water and they're established really nicely. At the beginning of the video, I did also mention that I needed to put some wire across the back here for this peach. I'm hopefully going to put that wire across, and then I can train the peach to kind of be spread out along the back there. But I've just realised what the time is. I've got to go and pick the kids up from school in 10 minutes. So that is going to be a job that I get round to hopefully on Monday or sometime over the weekend. But as I mentioned earlier as well, I have been doing so much out here, but I've really not been filming it very much. And hopefully I will make more of an effort to do that, because I really love bringing you along and kind of documenting what I'm doing in the garden, because this is the first year I really feel like I'm actually starting to achieve something, especially with that new area of my garden through here on the other side where my potatoes are growing. That bit of the garden hasn't actually cost me any money. You know, everything for that has gone in, I already had. So I'm so pleased with that, and I can't wait to continue that up the garden. But anyway, as I mentioned, I really have to go now. So thank you so much for watching. If this is the first time you watch one of my videos, please do hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of all of my latest videos. As ever, YouTube have some videos up on the side that they think you'll like. So please go ahead and watch those, and I'll catch up with you in the next episode. Bye.